relief is probably the primary emotion, just because, hopefully we've negotiated that. The boys who, came off seem in really good spirits, and so we've hopefully got through that unscathed. I think that's always the most important thing, and then we've got a performance that we can be proud of, I think. The first quarter of the game, we couldn't hang on to the ball. I think we made 40 tackles as opposed to them having made 6 tackles in that early part of the game, but I thought we did a really good job defensively, and then we built our way into the game, and I felt we dominated the last quarter. So it was not necessarily pretty to watch, but it was nice to get that result.
In the time since the lads have come off the pitch, have you had any update on Keith Earls?
Yeah, he's walking around okay. Those sorts of things, you've just got to wait and see if it's okay tomorrow. But he potentially could have played on. He feels like he could have, but there's no way in a game like that you're going to keep someone on in those circumstances. So it was good to get him off, and once he cools down completely, and we maybe get a good look at him tomorrow, we'll have a bit more information.
What exactly is it, Joe?
It just seemed like just his quad, whether it's a whack in the quad or just above the knee, he was uncomfortable. So it's one of those things we'll get a bit more information on.
Rory, was that the performance you guys knew you had in you? Like, obviously from the time of the game in Twickenham, and then obviously last week was a different squad, but was that what you knew you had in you?
Yeah, look, I think the lads last week, they put a bit of a marker down as to where we expect the physicality to be, and where we expect that sort of collective to be, and we knew we needed to improve, take another step, and I think that was another step today in terms of those aspects of the game. The sort of aspects that we pride ourselves on, that certainly in Twickenham and bits of the Six Nations that we didn't feel we were, as players, we were good enough in. So yeah, look, we know we have a lot more in us, and we know we're going to have to produce a lot more, but I think in terms of steps in the right direction, I think that is a performance that we can be happy with, and get onto the plane on Wednesday, with a bit of confidence. No doubt we'll look back and we'll look at the mistakes we made, and as always we'll try to get better.
Great to come out in the second half and I suppose get those 2 tries having gone in down at the break.
Yeah, look, I think the start of the second half was, I think we held on to possession a lot better. We were better at the breakdown, and I think we controlled not just possession, but we controlled territory a lot better in the second half, and I think that was sort of the reaction that we wanted. I think we defended quite well, certainly at the start of the game, but we just, you can't sit and just defend against a team like Wales. You've got to get a hold of the ball, and you've got to control it.
And Rory, because it was that performance, what you wanted as a team and yourself, at a personal level, then how much did you enjoy the noise, location, and often then when you're doing an interview at the end, just talk me through that? Yeah, look,
it's obviously incredibly special, this place. Like I said in that interview, it's been it's had some wonderful memories. It's had some ones that you've had to use to try to be better, and to get that reception from the supporters here, it's nice for my mum and dad and my young family and my wife to be in there, and to hear that. It's nice to see that probably over a fairly long period of time you've done more things right than not, and to get that appreciation is lovely. But look, ultimately it was about making sure that we were able to build on last week. It's nice to get the standing ovation and the applause, but ultimately the performance and the result was far more important than that.
Joe, did you struggle to hold back the emotion of what this chapter in your life is coming to a close in Ireland, or does the focus of the World Cup just help that?
Yeah, the focus of the World Cup is huge, so you're immediately starting to think in terms of our next game. Obviously, Scotland have had a couple of big wins against Georgia, they had a good win against France after doing a little bit similar to what we did against England and not really being ready to go from the very start. But that's the nature of these kind of pre-World Cup test matches, where people are trialling combinations and people are at various stages of preparation. So for me, it's been good to take the emotion out of it, as emotionally connected as I am to the team and the performance, to the Aviva Stadium and what it's meant over the last 10 years. I was here at the first game of rugby with my kids, watching an under 20 game with the 4 provinces mixed into 2 teams, and so I was here for the first game of rugby, and ever since then I've had some really special experiences just being here and absorbing the atmosphere. It's phenomenal for such an open stadium, the volume of noise that gets created, and we are incredibly lucky with the support that we have, and I think that was evidence with the support Rory got coming off today, and thoroughly deserved support as well.
John Klein put in the kind of performance that you wanted from him and show why you picked him?
Yeah, solid, not spectacular, making tackles, hitting good solid tackles. He's a good man for us in the engine room, and I think James Ryan is James Ryan really. He just keeps setting a bar for himself and then looking to jump a little bit higher, and I thought Ian Henderson added some value, and we've got Tyke Byrne there, so it's going to be a good contest for those spots. And they're 4 quite different profiles of second row, so it allows us a little bit of flexibility in how we change up the game during the game or from game to game.
But it's that ruck continuity, isn't it? It's just, you always need people who are just going to hit the rucks and make sure you keep the ball.
Yeah,
retain it, but retain it well.
and he can carry okay as well. He's a big man. And I think across the board there was a real work ethic out there today. And as I said, it wasn't necessarily wasn't flash, but it was functional. And sometimes when you're building towards something, you want functional. I thought the first try was really well constructed for Rob Carney to get over. We went through some good phases. When we made a couple of line breaks, Jordan Lama, Josh van der Fleer, I thought we looked dangerous with the ball. But once we got to squeeze them in the 22, I thought we muscled up really well on the back of good set piece, our line out, our scrum. I thought they were real go-tos for us today.
Joe, you brought on a lot of power up front at the end. How important is it that you almost finish with a stronger or bigger pack in the games that come?
Yeah, I suppose, I think it's strong, the guys who come on, but, Dave Kilcoyne is dynamic. Sean Cronin is not a huge man, but he's dynamic. It's those sort of players that can change it one way, and then you've got the sort of power player like an Andrew Porter, like Rhys Ruddock. I thought Rhys came on and added a real bit of impact as well. Jack Carty probably didn't add impact. He's got very skinny legs, but he's very effective kicking with those legs. I thought put us down into the corner really effectively and ran the game well coming on. And he's a guy who's growing in confidence as well. Gary Ringrose's first involvement, making that tackle in behind the advantage line and then getting up and making the next tackle. It was really probably confidence building for those guys coming off the bench as well. So I'd like to hope that it's a good mix. There was certainly some power, and those guys did well. The power players like an Ian Henderson and an Andrew Porter, Rhys Ruddock. It's great to have those guys coming off the bench.
John Klein, what do you want to see from him to get to that next level?
We all Bestie just saying he wants to get better, and he's had 118 at least goes at getting better, so he's outstanding now. Jean Klein hasn't had as many opportunities, but we're trying to build that profile just to get him more. You never want to be comfortable, but just to get him more confident that he can offer himself as a ball carrier, that he can be getting off the line and adding value defensively. And I think he does. Right from that first game where we played Italy, I think if you look back in that first 15 minutes, he's in a couple of really big tackles where he hits big men back. So, you know, when your big men are doing that, it gives you an advantage line, and it gives you a little bit of confidence in your step and in the guys who are kind of being dragged forward with them.
Joe, the midfield and another competitive area, how did you feel the combination there with Bundy and Robbie?
Those two know each other inside out. They're good friends. They're good players together. I thought Robbie's first carry, when he gets that ball in behind, Bundy knows exactly where to be and punches onto that ball really well. And instead of us having a ruck just on our 22, we're actually going forward to the next ruck. They play very well together on the front foot, but also I think defensively they got to space. You know, Wales scored on the back of an intercept today effectively, you know, and it's certainly, considering we brought the ball down and then gave it, it seemed that they got a long way up the pitch very, very quickly. So I do think that our midfield defence with those two was very strong as well, but you know, we'd have real confidence in the four midfielders that we have. They're all very good defenders, and they're going to compete, I think, for spots. And some of it is about combinations and the fact that Bundy and Robbie know each other so well. But you know, Robbie and Gary Ringrose played together for Leinster, and they know each other well. And Chris Farrell he's never let us down. So you know, there's a mix there.
Joe, do you set any store at all in the rankings, or would you feel it's a reflection, maybe the body of work over the last 6.5 years to be top of there now?
Yeah, I didn't even realise that we were until I did an interview after the game. That's how far away from our thoughts it's been. It's a label. It's a nice label to get, and it's a nice first time that we've been in that position. So we have been lucky enough to tick a few firsts off with this group over the last 6.5 years, but that label is not going to be relevant to anyone. We all know who the favourites are for Rugby World Cup, and it's not us.
It suits the favourites, doesn't it? That there's obviously like after them losing a game in November when Steve Hampton said, "Oh well, you know, the pressure's on." It suits them in a way, doesn't it, to be able to sort of push it elsewhere? But is that just plays into that?
Yeah, knowing Steve and Ian Foster and the coaching staff and some of the players, well, for them it's far from their minds. They are very process focused, the All Blacks, and it is all about kind of, for them, it is about getting out and making the ball work and working hard for each other. And they do I don't know if you've noticed, they do a pretty good job of it, an exceptional job of it. And we, you know, we'd acknowledge the quality that they bring to world rugby.
Rory, how much confidence in the forward pack will you take from the way you problem solved your way through the liner after the first 2 rounds straight? What you want to see?
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's great then to have the options there. You know, see, Hendy called last week, James Ryan called this week, and you know, when you've Pete O'Mahony in there to come in, you know, you've guys that can think their way through the game, and it's very important, and it takes the pressure off. And I think what it does, it breeds confidence through everyone else. I think that is the line out, because you're so interdependent on everyone else, and when things start to go a bit jittery, you just need someone to stand up and be that figure to go, right, this is what we're going to, and people just want to buy into it. And I think James is very much becoming that person around our squad. Hendy, having called for us a bit now, is getting that. So yeah, look, I think it's it's an area of the game that you want it to be perfect. It's not always going to be perfect, but you've got to be able to, like you say, problem solve. You've got to be able to win the next moment. And I think we talked about it in England, where it was disappointing to lose the lineouts we did, but probably the most disappointing thing was how we reacted off the back of it. Like Maratoje's try, for example, to lose a lineout and then to score off the second phase just isn't, that's not us trying to win the next play. That's just us kind of head down, disappointed. And I think we saw a lot better reaction today.